put it in there. So I'm looking out of my comfort zone. But I brought a little bit of piece of me. I got to have a little of another around me to make me feel comfortable. But I'm still with family, so I am comfortable. I see a lot of friendly faces. And the man I was getting was Peter. Man, but I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna come from my subject title, Your Greatest Mistake. Your greatest mistake. First of all, let me start by giving you a little bit of background on Peter. Peter. Originally his name was Simon. Jesus changed his name to Peter. Or wrong. Strong dude, right? Strong dude. Luke 5, 6 and 8 tells us that Peter was one of the very first disciples chosen by Jesus. Peter was a fisherman by trade. Almost by birthright. That's what they did. That's what they did. He was a man's man. A man full of vigor, brashness, attitude, outspokenness, boisterousness, and fearlessness. That's all we know. But he was obedient. He was obedient. When Jesus called Peter to follow him, Peter didn't ask any questions. Peter dropped everything he had. He dropped his profession and his position and walked with Jesus. Period. No questions asked. How many of us are willing to do that? I mean, today, in this world so much, how many of us are willing to drop everything to leave, to go for what we believe in our Lord? The man that just died by the name of who? Muhammad Ali. We may not share the same beliefs as Muhammad Ali, but that man gave up his entire career. He gave up everything he knew because he wasn't a good reader. He wasn't a writer. He was a fighter. He gave that up and stood on what he believed in. There'll never be another life. Although Peter believed wholeheartedly in Jesus, he will soon be faced with his greatest mistake. In Matthew 26 and 35, Peter declared to Jesus, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. All right, now you tell me, Jesus, all knowing. How you think these little people? Man, 4 times, you're going to tell them what you're knowing. Before the clock crows 3 times, you would disown me. But Peter told Jesus, I never disown him. Peter believed that. He stood on that. He believed it. But Peter did disown Jesus. You see, Peter followed Jesus and participated in Jesus' ministry with the same vigor, the same brashness, and the same boisterousness that he had lived his life with before he met Jesus. Peter. He followed and believed in Jesus so much that he was the first to verbalize the revelation given to him by God that the man that he followed, the man that they called Jesus, was in fact the Son of the living God. His belief was so strong that he was and is still the only other person to walk on water. You see, his belief granted him that power. His belief granted him the power. He will still be forced or faced with his greatest mistake, though. Peter believed in Jesus so much that he was willing to die for Jesus. He proved it in the garden. John 18:10 tells us that Peter confronted one of the high priest's servants, drew his sword, and cut off the servant's ear. That's bold, isn't it? That's pretty bold. You see, they had come to take Jesus, and Peter being that dude, Peter wasn't having it. Peter wasn't having that. But they did take Jesus. And Peter's greatest mistake still lies before him. Peter thought he would never waver in his defense of Jesus. Jesus was taken. Peter followed him from a distance. Y'all get that? Peter followed from a distance. See, sometimes those that you really, really believe in and tell you they'll never leave you, they may not leave you, but they'll back off you. They'll still follow you from a distance. But they still watching. He was still watching. He was still watching in the doorway. A woman came up to him and asked him, aren't Cock-a-doodle-doo. The soldiers marched Jesus. The soldiers continued to march Jesus around. Jesus continued to suffer at the hands of the soldiers while Peter continued to watch from a distance. Peter, he now stood, still watching from a distance, warming himself by the fire with others when he was asked for a second time, are now also one of his man's disciples? Peter answered, I am not. Cock-a-doodle-doo. He remained in what he thought a safe distance away from Jesus, but a way where he could still see the suffering and persecution that Jesus was absorbing. Standing, Peter was again asked by one of the servants of the high priest. Yep, the same servant. He had just cut off his servant's ear. And so, if did nobody else in that place recognize Peter, you know they didn't recognize Peter. But Peter denied Jesus for a third time. What happened then, y'all? Cock-a-doodle-doo. And he locked eyes with Jesus. But thankfully, that man that he locked eyes with wasn't judging him like this. It wasn't a judging eye. It wasn't that eye that said, they got to talk to me. What? I told y'all to look like this, right? It wasn't that type of eye. He looked at it. It was that comforting type look that looked at it. That compassionate type look. Right. Man, it's okay. It's all right. Peter denied Jesus for a third time. Peter, I told you he's going to be facing his greatest mistake. Peter was now standing in his greatest mistake. He denied Jesus before man, something that he vowed he would never do. But Jesus knew he was going to do it. So you know Jesus made a way for him, right? Yes, he did. I'm so glad the story don't stop there. Because I truly stood inside of my greatest mistake. Who has not? If we're going to be truthful with each other, there's nobody in here that has not made what they can describe as their greatest mistake. I stood there as a police officer on the corner of Shelby Drive and Range Road. Took an oath to protect the servant. I made my greatest mistake. I broke that oath. Had to resign from the police department. I got to tell you what I did. We'll be here all day. But I did. Had to resign from the police department. I cried because I still had that water feed back there. I still had a life disease. Lost everything I had. Lost everything I had. But you know what? Glory to Him. Glory to Him. Today, I got a new position. Sherwood Middle School. I came in as working in day treatment with some exceptional children. Like that. Within the year, during the school year, the prophet gave me another position. More money. Within the same week, the prophet said, how do you feel about being my head football coach? Yes. But that's just to let somebody know that I don't care